Welcome to Section 31, episode number 275. I'm Dan Hammond.
And I am Rogue Schindler.
This week, we have for you a recap of our activities at GenCon 2015. Had to check the date. Been looking ahead to next year ever since we got back. We have a review of our continuing series of the animated series, The Infinite Vulcan, later on. We have no spoilage for you this week, but we talk a lot about GenCon. So let's start with that. Have you recovered?
No, but I've had a lot of personal stuff happening in the week intervening. So
fair enough. Did you get the con crud from Mac? Because I am, as of now, feeling okay.
I did not. Luckily, I think my immune system was bolstered by having been sick by some kind of super cold that I got over Mother's Day weekend that lasted pretty much until Comic-Con. So yeah, I was like, I kept washing my hands and getting the hand sanitizer and everything, but no, I didn't. That's one thing I did not get at Comic-Con or at GenCon.
All right, good. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll call it. No, we can't call it that. Yeah, we'll call it GenCon. So we both flew in overnight Tuesday night and got there super early Wednesday morning, and had the fantastic happenstance of having our hotel room ready. So
amazing.
We went and crashed for a few hours, which I would highly recommend. I got to figure out how we can arrange to have that happen again next year, because that was kind of awesome.
Yeah, that's usually the big downside of taking the red eye, but that was awesome. And getting in before it came up, because it was like a sauna walking out of the airport. So that was huge. Get over to the room, have our room, crash for a while, spend the rest of the day at hotel without having to go out into the heat or the humidity.
Sure. Yeah, your connection is kind of awful. But while you're checking that out, when we flew in, we landed, we waited outside for a taxi in the dark, and we played that game where we looked for someone else who looked like a gamer to show up and to share a taxi with to the hotel, because it's always cheaper to split it, an extra way. It was oppressive, and it was still before sunup. I mean, it was pitch black outside, and it was hot, and it was humid. I ran back inside to fill up our water bottles while you were waiting out there for the taxi. And when I came back out again, it hit me again, like, ah. But I will say, after that morning, and perhaps that day, because I don't think we went back outside that day, it was actually kind of pleasant the rest of the week. It started getting hot and disgusting again on Monday, but once again we were heading to an airport that was over air conditioned, and we were fine. But I think it was just that morning. Later on in the week, I walked, across downtown, and I felt, pretty good at the end. I wasn't overly hot or anything. That was about 5 p.m. But anyway, you were saying we got there early. It was oppressive and nasty. We crashed at the hotel for a little while, and then started wandering around. Right? Did we find somebody right away? I think Charlie was hanging out.
Well, we had plans to. You and I had planned on having a day of nothing. Not sure who was going to be there yet or whatnot, and so we had packed up Pathfinder.
That's right.
The adventure card game.
I got ahead of ourselves, didn't I?
And we're like, okay, we'll bring all of the adventures and we'll two-man our way through, half the game. And then Chris Loban was there, and Andrea was there, and then Charlie was there, and we had one big party.
Yeah,
I think we sat down at lunch and played till dinner.
I guess we should rewind, because we got to the airport. We went over, parked at your office, right? Went across the street and got some Subway, and then ran to catch a bus, because it was like constantly a block ahead as we were power walking toward it. And finally you just said, hold my bag, and sprinted off after it. And we got on that bus and took it all the way to the airport. So we saved ourselves some, cash for getting a cab there. And when we got to the airport, we were like, well, let's sit down and, eat these sandwiches. We got a little while to the flight. So we sat down and we ate, and then we started playing Pathfinder, the card game, right there in the airport, because, why not, right?
Yeah.
With
Well, our
packing our
flight was
carry-on.
delayed, and
Yeah,
we had a time. We had time, and we had to get you caught up to the rest of our regular Friday night party.
that's right.
So
That's right.
we got a game in then, and then we had the incredible luck of not having somebody between us on the first leg of our flight to
Exactly.
Denver. And we had everything with us, and the time we were already playing.
So we took everything
So
out. We had an extra seat. We filled that up with cards. Put all the trays down. Filled those up with cards. Took a picture. I think you posted it somewhere.
I did.
Get commented on by someone who made the game. And yeah, we got a couple of
Yes.
rounds in flight to Denver. Did we? And then we ran to catch our next flight, and we got on pretty quick, right?
Well, we were packed up. We were afraid of missing our. We were going to have like less than 45 minutes to catch our next flight.
That's right.
The next leg. So we were packed up and ready to jump off the plane, and it was in the next gate because that's what happens when you fly Frontier. Is they have like 4 gates and they're all right next to each other, so there's not really a concern.
It wasn't like when you're flying into Denver on United when you have to cross 4 terminals and take the
Exactly.
train to somewhere into the next town over. No, it was literally the next gate. We had to turn left, and there it was. So we sat down and charged our phones for a few minutes and got right back on the plane. Right?
Yeah, we were expecting to run onto the plane and we had boarding, but no sooner had we sat down than they kind of napped until we got in, and then that's where we started already.
Yeah. Right. So to catch up, in case that didn't come through clearly, short flight, landed, slept, got up, and started gaming again because Chris, Loban, and Andrea and Charlie were there. So we broke out the Pathfinder again and started playing more Skulls and Shackles. So that was fun. And this was the other version of our characters because why not play more than one? So that was
Sure.
fun to play something else, and we got pretty far into it that day. We played until the evening, and then man, it all just runs together so much. I think that was Wednesday night, so we went over to the Granite, right? That night
Yes.
was it Granite? Is that the name of the place?
Yeah, Granite something. Granite Falls,
Square.
Granite Hills, Granite something.
Some sort of rock,
Pub,
and
grill.
it was Pub and Grill, and that's the place that looks so tiny on the front, and then it just keeps going in the back forever, right? It's like connected to the mall back there. But we had our space, a couple of tables right in front. It looked like we weren't going to have enough space for all the people that were coming, but we kind of fit pretty well. They had enough room to run a tournament. And for those of the
Definitely.
folks, yeah, for those folks that weren't playing a tournament, we had some tribbles. It was like the first. I was cutting up. Well, that was a running joke for the next 2 days, is that I was cutting up tribbles every time anybody saw me. But I cut up a bunch of the new stuff and threw it in a few decks, and we played at least 2 rounds that night with the new, just testing out the new trebles and the shifty tribbles, and everyone got their share of Fizbin in. That was fun. And we got to experience a bar that ran out of glasses. I don't know how that works.
Even when we were trying to actively hand them our empties so that they could refill them, they just kept looking at us with the sort of blank stare, like, I don't understand how that will help.
Yeah,
Like, just
it was almost that look.
the liquid
kind of lists to
in
the
my
side
cup.
and little number flashes. Bing, bing. Does not compute. And yeah, it was odd. And then later, they ran out of spoons, and so they left our desserts sitting in like the heat lamp. So all of our ice creams and cooled for melty, and it was just not pleasant. We did not have a good time at the restaurant. We didn't get the nice big space that we had last time. It was just odd. It was an odd experience all around. That probably led us to spending most of the rest of the evenings in the other sports bar, the one that was right next in our hotel, because we spent a lot of evenings at the Velocity, whatever that was.
Yes.
After we left there, I want to say that we made our way back to the JW Marriott and sat around and played probably Cards Against Humanity, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that was the inaugural game of the Trek CC version of Cards Against Humanity, which was brought by the Lowbuns and had cut up and put in some sleeves. We didn't have I did not bring my base game because we were limited on luggage space on the way out with our musical airlines.
Yes, since we were going out to Frontier, we had to pay for everything. If I remember correctly, we just the first game was just the bonus cards and a bunch of like Star Trek random cards.
Yeah, so it was all cut up sort of fandom-y cards, Star Trek, internet, and then our custom CC cards, which were entertaining, but it was weird because there were so few cards, they kept coming up and being in the same weird combinations. And so later in the week, somebody, I think Chris and Andrea, had purchased actual copies of Cards Against Humanity and some of the other set, which I had actually steered away from being a knockoff and all, called Crabs Against Humidity. So Crabs Adjust Humidity.
Yes.
Which is basically just a knockoff of Cards Against Humanity, and they're comically unapologetic about it. But I was kind of impressed. The cards were funny and they were in the same style. They weren't just a cheap knockoff. They were actually pretty entertaining. So that was a good addition as well for those of us who have all the sets and are used to seeing all the cards, kind of new cards coming through along with our custom cards. And I think that came out pretty much every night of the con.
Yeah, no doubt. I have to say that all of the custom cards put together, I think someone mentioned it, they didn't quite have the right flow of the Cards Against Humanity cards, but mixed in with everything else, I think it worked a lot better.
Yeah. As I discovered at Comic-Con, where I was trying to make my own cards for the 100 when we were with that crew, black cards are really hard to write. It's, white cards can just be nouns, or you can add some of the Cards Against Humanity flavor to get them more familiar. But black cards are especially hard to have something where you have the blank in the right spot so that the majority of the existing cards will work in there. And some of them were great. I especially was a fan of 1 go, 10 go, 100 blank.
Yes, that was rather good because but anyway, yes.
It's tough, and so we made some adjustments on the fly.
I also liked as the weekend went on, more and more custom cards got added. Some of them with graphics,
including an action animated card of you.
Yes,
it's actually you enacting a different card.
Only see that's the original set, right? Has all of these cards that are kind of like other cards, and you can see kind of a pattern emerging. And I can only imagine that's what happened. Something was funny, and then they made a new card, and that got put in, and then something funny was based on that, and that was put in. So you get the string, and also on the outside, have no idea what the string actually was. But now we have, whatever it was, Jaminar Jazz Hands or whatever, and then Dan's Jaminar Jazz Hands or whatever. They make no sense, but someone's going to put them together, and that's going to be hilarious.
Yes. And some of them you only got the extra joke if you had the art there to go with it, like Q's tent.
Yes.
Which you'll have to ask Andrea to post the image for that if you want to see that. I highly recommend it. But that, once again, see, we're following through lines, but they're leading us into the future, and we're messing up the timeline because time is not linear. It's just one of your human non-wormhole alien concepts that help your tiny brain who don't go to GenCon, or I'm not recovering from GenCon. So yeah. Thursday,
yes. So Thursday, you and Charlie and Mac and I all had some time free, and we had bought tickets for the first round of the Pathfinder card game organized play in the morning, and then we had some semblance of tickets for the open later in the evening. But we actually got to all sit around the table and play in the morning, How early did we get there? Did we start at the 10 o'clock?
No, we were bright and early for the 8 a.m. slot,
How did we do
which
that?
for a game like that where they muster. I mean, the games start at 8, so you're expected to be there and muster into groups at 7:45. I think we managed to roll in around 7:50, but like luckily we knew our group. We had a table's worth of people planning to be there, and so we were just like, 4 for 1A, and they led us to a table. Um, Luckily, after that first game, they started to get to know the tables and the people who were at them, and we no longer had what happened probably every 3 minutes in that first hour of, hey, how are you guys doing? Can I help you anything? You guys have any questions? Do you know what you're doing? Can I help you over here? Why don't you sit over there? Are you doing that okay? You need this? You need help shuffling? Can I hold your hand? They were, it's the polar opposite of the usual experience where they're too few and far between and you can never find somebody. But man, they were so helpful to the point of being overly helpful, mostly because we already knew what we were doing. But it was, they were really, really helpful.
They
Get that
were
restaurant.
very eager to help us out. They were. I
Yeah.
mean, if we had glasses of water on the table, they would have been topped off all the time, right?
Yes.
And we didn't need
Uh,
it. So it was like you said, it was nice to have them there, and it was nice for them to realize that we didn't need them there, and eventually they left us alone.
yeah.
Yeah, that was nice. Uh, we played until 2 o'clock. Did we even break for lunch, or did we just munch on con food? I
No,
don't
we
remember.
powered through.
Yeah, we
Well,
powered through.
we had 3 slots, and all, if to go according to plan, we had 5 games to get through. And we knew from experience that if we just kept going, they would let us keep going. So we powered through, hoping that we could finish all of Adventure 1 because we knew Charlie was not going to get a chance to play again.
Right, exactly. So we had to get in everything that afternoon, that day.
Yeah.
So we must have gotten pretty far. How'd we do? Do you remember?
I do. We finished. We got all the way through Adventure 1 uh, because we got the card feat and we got all of our rewards set, and we were very excited because we got to be groups to play through on those particular characters. Because if you've never played, I know we've talked about ACG a lot, but like last year, they had all of the decks available for you to borrow in case you don't have your own. But this year, they had 3 of the 4 new decks that have not yet been released available for borrowing as well. So you could sort of preview those and get a feel for what they were going to look like and which ones you might want to buy in the future. So Charlie played the Paladin, I played the Monk, and Dan, you were excited to continue with your Mage, who
Yes.
was reborn.
Mostly because I won't be joining you on Thursdays, so I wanted to play as much as I can of that character.
Exactly. And then we were going to have Mac play the druid because that's funny for our own purposes. But he played the bard, so we got to play 2 of those 3 classes. So it was cool not just to be able to play the game together and play the new season, but play those new characters as well. I think I actually switched monk classes in between about halfway through because I just was not enjoying the one particular type. Charlie, on the other hand, absolutely loved his gnome paladin on his riding dog, charging all over the board to rescue people, whether they needed help or not.
Yeah, that was it. I don't think I've seen that much glee. You need help? You want help over there? I'm happy to head over. I'll bear my mount. I'll take it. Yeah, that was funny. That was good. And so we played until 2 o'clock, right?
I think that actually was our undoing, was trying to get through that last one, because we did find out that there was very limited space in the open that you had mentioned, and we had been talking to the people running it, and we really wanted to play. We had some tickets, but not all tickets for the same slot, and different people were available at different times. This was the time we were here available to play, and so they actually added an extra table, and we're going to take generics for it. So we were excited. That was going to be our table. We were ready. We knew we could play. Yay. Except nobody told the other guy who was mustering those people to play, other than the fact that there was a third table, not that it was our table, and that we were ready to queue for that, or that we needed to go queue for that. So that guy gave it to another team who had came up asking about it with generics, and so through that miscommunication, we were not proactive enough, and we just unfortunately, as a group, were not able to go in. However, one person did have a real ticket for that event, and that was you.
Yeah, so I got to introduce myself to 3 other chumps who had all randomly were there. It was one guy who was cast off from his 4 other friends that played the game, plus 2 other guys who also didn't know any of us. So it was introductions all around, and I got to sit down and play with them. And I kept looking up to where you guys were, seeing if you were going to be able to join as the other table, and unfortunately that didn't happen. In fact, we were the 3rd table because they started off the other 2 tables, and since I was kind of hanging around with you trying to figure out what we were going to do, they didn't start our table until last, and they had the supplies for 2 tables, and they did not have the supplies for 3 tables. So the folks who were running the thing, Chad and Tanis and not Mike, Keith, right? We're just running around, ripping cards out of boxes, shuffling things together, sleeving cards, just like mad people. This whole thing was supposed to go 2 to 4 because at 4 o'clock we were all going to go back to the Trek Hall and play in the crossover event. But my table didn't actually get started until closer to 2:30, 2:45. So if you would have been at my table, all 4 of us would have been late. That's for sure.
Oh no!
Because, like, we were sitting around, and every once in a while, someone would run up to us. Oh, just be patient. We're almost done. We're getting things ready. And we're like, go ahead. We're going to take. The thing was timed, so it wasn't like we were going to get kicked out at 4 o'clock. They were going to kick us out when the time was up. But so we just had to sit and relax and try not to listen too hard about what was happening at the tables next to us, right?
Right.
And eventually they came over, and if you've played the Pathfinder card game before, the way it's set up is you and however many people in your party all have a character, and you've got to go to, usually it's the number of characters at the table plus 1 or 2 sites? Plus 2?
2.
Yeah. So in a 4-player game, there would be 6 sites, and you have to go explore the sites. And when you make the deck, you put from the box however many number you're supposed to be there, and you shuffle it all up, and the bad guy's in there somewhere, and it all gets shuffled up, and you go explore the other game. Well, they brought over piles of cards pre-sorted in exactly the order that we were meant to encounter them, and set them all up in 4 neat little piles. And I think the game was we had to close 2 locations, and then we had to close another location showed up, and we had to close that location. It was as brutal a game, I think, as I played the whole weekend. It was just everything was set up to beat us. Everything was set up. I mean, the point of it was you got 90 minutes or whatever to do all this stuff, and you're going to be graded based on how many turns are left in the clock and how many people die and how much loot you recover during your run and don't use, and all these things, whether or not you open up the last location and close the last location. And by the time we finished, we had learned a lot about what we're supposed to be doing, and how to beat the system, as it were, by shuffling up the decks with spells and evading things for no reason. By the time we got to the end, we felt like we kind of did pretty well. We won the scenario on the last turn, which seemed to be a surprise to the person running the game, because it wasn't really it was supposed to be at a difficulty level that not many people would finish it. So we did pretty well. It turned out one of the other tables had also finished it, but the 3rd table didn't. They got beat up pretty badly. And we were told another session was going to run at 4 o'clock, and then another session was going to run the next day. And on Friday night, the final list of who advances from the semifinals to the quarterfinals we posted, so we would find out then. And I kept playing until probably about 4:15. I kept getting texts from you and Charlie, hey, do you want me to draft something for you? You know, you can play it when you get here. I'm like, my mind is not melting out of my ear. I don't even want to come back and play right now. I think I went back after it was done. I grabbed some food and then wandered back over there and sat down and just let it all kind of wash over me for a little while. I talked to Chris and Andre about it, and Charlie when he was around. No, I think based on what we were told, we were told we did well enough that we would probably advance because they weren't expecting anyone to complete the thing, much less as we did. So we got a lot of points, and it sounded pretty good. So we felt, I felt like, well, I guess I'm in to the next round, which is great. I guess we'll find out on Friday. And then I think we went back and you were playing in the crossover event. So did that start on time? Did it how did it go for you? Based on what I remember, you got Terran Empire, which I imagine was exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, I was interested. I was actually glad I got the Empire. When we started, I was excited to try either one just to see what else was coming in there. But I guess because of the state of the process at that time, they did not have enough of the cards ready to actually use the active, the new engines that are going to be in the next block. So basically all we got were starter decks from crossover, and then mirror packs to kind of fill them out. So just like any of the other the emissary and the TNG starters, they're not
strong.
There's no finest crew or here by invitation or anything like that, and then they're just scrub engines and a little bit of support. So they weren't as heavily flavored as I was hoping. For that, I mean, we got the promo smiley, which was great for the preview event, and we got to see a lot of new cards from each side. It was also weird because the mirror decks were not, I say as an amazing couple of pulls, were not super helpful. There were really 4 cards, and I kept hearing this up and down the table as people were opening packs. We only get like 3 or 4 cards that were really helpful because either they didn't fit for the tournament or they were cards that were already in the decks. So
interesting.
That being said, of course, without those new engines, of course I wanted Terran Empire because I already know how to play them and they were great. And I opened I got the Terran Empire starter, and I opened my first pack and I pulled the Rebellion HQ.
Well, I'm sure that helped a little bit.
So, that was a little helpful. The other main, it wasn't as helpful as you might think because the main engine otherwise was new arrivals. So as soon as I played 2 people in a turn for free, I was going to lose that card draw. And that was really the only other card draw engine that came in the starter. So it did free me up to be able to play uniques for free instead of just universals. But what really enabled me to get going was I also pulled an agonizing booth, which I was like, okay, agonizing booth. I've never really used that very effectively in construction, so I didn't think too much about it. But with so few cards that I was reading everything, and it turns out in this limited format that if you can control which ship it's on, you play it on the right ship, and you make sure that ship is doing help you and not things that will hurt you by putting people in the agony booth, then going off and attacking your opponent's ship to draw 3 cards can be huge every turn, and more than make up for the fact that you no longer have the new arrivals engine. So about halfway through my game, a couple of times when I had that, I'd pop it so I could play some more people and get it rolling. But yeah, that was really, I mean, those cards and Miley and an Uhura. Those were some good cards to put together. And all in all, it sounds like Terran Empire kind of romped, which in the old format I would not. I would of course expect that. With these new cards, I was hoping maybe there would be something a little more equal. But I went undefeated, and I still came in second. Actually, I didn't come in second, like third or something. But I didn't win. It was, but I guess they specifically, because it was a special themed event, they only had you play against the adversarial match. So Terran Empire was always paired against KCA, so you never had the mirror match.
Right.
Ironically.
Otherwise, you would have had way too many missions in common, I believe.
Yeah. Interesting with the missions that we pulled, and I totally lucked out with that being the case, because otherwise I would not have had the mission to play my headquarters on, because that mission I did not pull it out of a pack and it did not come in the starter.
Oh, it was always in your opponent's deck?
Always in my opponent's deck, so I always had some place to seed it.
Okay, well that's got quite a benefit, yeah.
Yeah. So between that and there are two new. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about the spoilers, but yeah, spoilers. There were two new, one in each deck, that had a way of scoring bonus points for their particular affiliation. The Terran Empire one seeded or played on a space mission, and you had to solve it. And it buffed up your ships, whereas the KCA one played or seeded on a planet mission. You did not have to solve it, but the first time you attempted it, if you had more than 5 people and less than 10 people, you got to draw a card for each different affiliation in your away team, and if there were at least 3 affiliations, you get to score 5 points.
That's cool.
So those were cool turn the corner things, since all of the mirror missions are all 30 points. That always makes it kind of rough to turn the corner. There was a universal space mission in the mirror quadrant now, so that's nice and helpful, which I think is good. It used to be good that there were no space missions in the mirror quadrant, because that made you come to the alpha quadrant or have to score the extra 40. But with the what's it called? Got to do an alpha quadrant.
Yeah, that's interesting though, because that card's rotating out, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, you are a monument.
You are a monument, yes. Well, in block general, I think you don't need you are a monument and balancing act or big picture to be hitting you both times. I think it's enough to make you do one extra 40.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
As far as blocking is concerned, yeah, maybe that'll come up in the home front.
Yeah, that'd be the way to do it. That's a good point.
Or maybe you can just play. I don't know. That kind of makes sense. If you're going to have a mirror block, it might almost make sense to have your monument rotate out.
So that
for a little while.
You can
just play in the mirror quadrant.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. See a problem with that. But all in all, it was a lot of fun. We got to see new cards, and every time somebody would play something, like, "Ooh, what's that do? Why does he have that?" And there's a Captain Lursa now to go with Captain Bator, and some other. There's a new cool. I kept waiting to see the emblem pop up, because we had Emblem of the Empire, but there was no emblem of KCA because they got their own treaty now, which is very helpful.
Interesting.
Little
a
triple
treaty.
treaty KCA.
Okay. I see. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that
mirror personnel, or can you just use it outside that?
No, it's specifically KCA related.
Okay.
So and it also lets you more the affiliation restrictions on ships. So I don't have to have a Klingon on my bird to or vice versa. You know, I don't have to have a Klingon on my bird of prey, my KCA bird of prey.
Sure, that makes sense.
All of them can fly all the ships, which makes sense. Yeah.
Cool, neat. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing that
Thanks
all
for the
fleshed
little
out with graphics and
preview.
everything. You're starting to break up again, so maybe we should wrap up Thursday. Are you still there?
Yeah, I am.
All right. I believe after that tournament was over, did we have time to do anything, or was it right into tribbles at 10 o'clock?
Get a short break so you could just kind of hanging out and.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so that was tribbles at 10 o'clock, and I had finished putting together all 10 decks and all 5 of my trouble piles. I was gifted an additional 5 very nicely put together trouble piles for the tournaments themselves, and all the scorecards and everything else was ready to go thanks to our printing group. And we got right to it. We played 2 rounds, and I think that was the first day that I loaned out a deck to a new player, and she defeated me in our first round and then went on to win the tournament. Is that right?
That sounds correct. And then she advanced she advanced to the top table, and then even while we perseverables through the blackout, she managed to hold on.
That's right. Was it Thursday night that we lost power, or that all the lights went out and we had to play with cell phone lights?
I think that was it.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying at the point. But yeah, because I think I did not come back for triples on Friday. And I definitely played in that game. So.
Yep. Yeah, because I was out. I was out on Friday as well, so it must have been Thursday. So it must have been like maybe 11 o'clock on the nose. All the lights in hall, whatever we were in, B, C, D, E, just went out. Just chunk, 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 chunk down the way. All the lights went out, and we're all staring at each other. We all pulled out our phones, turned on the flashlight mode, and then everyone kind of held them up so we could see the table. I think there were some emergency lights on, but it wasn't enough to see anything. And then about 10 or 15 minutes later, the lights started to come back on, but those stadium-style lights that slowly get brighter over like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we weren't having any of it. You know, we just kept going.
Yeah, it wasn't like, a fire alarm and everyone had to evacuate or anything. The lights just went up. No big deal.
Yeah, no scooping.
We kept playing.
That just lead to lots of triples after dark and triples in the dark, and some jokes about. I was like, well, triples after dark. I was like, well, they're triples. Well, are they going to breed more?
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, the lights came back on, and when the smoke cleared, I lost again to my own deck. So all was right with the world. And I think that was it. We packed it in. There might have been some more Cards Against Humanity, but I think we pretty much crashed out, head back to the room. Right?
Yeah, that was a long day. I think I retired early. Early being, 1 or so.
Yeah. We didn't stay out till 4. It was more like 1 o'clock. So, early night. The next morning, I think that was the day that we had kind of planned out. It was Friday. I knew I had to leave at around 5 or so to go off to the concert. You had something else to do, and I think I ended up. Did I cut your ear, or did you cut your ear?
You cut my ear.
I cut your ear.
Well, you nommed my ear with the scissors, but it didn't actually. They're dull scissors, so they didn't actually cut anything.
So you had a bald cap on that needed to be trimmed, and I took care of that for a bit because you were dressed up as the monk from Gamers.
Correct.
Yes. Again, and yeah, that was awesome. And everyone kept stopping and saying, "I love your Avatar costume," which I thought was hilarious.
Not unexpected.
Yeah. Well, you got orange robe and a bald head. You did point out on numerous occasions that you were missing the arrow. Right? Yeah.
No blue arrow. How it's like pre-tattooing? I don't know. But in their defense, I have used that costume for an Avatar Aang costume, so I can't really fault them for it. But yeah, I think that's why I retired that early that night, because I knew I was going to have to get up and start putting on my bald cap for the evening, and we had plans to play because we were so busy in the evening. So I put on most of it, and then we went to the game.
That's right. We went straight there and played at I think we jumped in the 10 o'clock game.
Yeah.
I think that was the night that I actually slept for like 8 hours. That was because we planned to actually go to sleep at a reasonable, before 4 o'clock in the morning hour, and didn't get up and jump into the tournament or the tables that we wanted to until 10. So I actually got a good night's sleep that night, and then we went to the Pathfinder tables, and I don't think I left until I had to, because it was time to go to the concert.
Yep. And I think I cheated in between rounds and ran off and did some of my makeup, and then I came back and then put on some of my costume, and whenever we had a little bit of spare time, so we could keep playing, because you and I had already played through Adventures 1 and 2 at Origins, but Adventure 3 was now available at GenCon, and now that our other friends were not available to play in the earlier states, we were eager to jump back in with our other characters and play through Adventure 3.
Yes, this is what I considered the high-level characters, because they were the highest I had in organized play. So we got to just fight our way through those two. Are those? We got through all five, or was it only 4?
There were only 4.
Yeah, I felt like,
but we could only do 3 because I think you went ahead and did the 4th because an opportunity arose for me to try my hand at the Open.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was,
if I remember correctly, they said, "Hey, we've got a table," and you and Mac were there, and you were sitting by yourselves for a little while.
Yeah, and we kept going about because I knew I couldn't make it for the semis, and Mac couldn't make it for the semis. We just wanted to play because it was a new adventure. It was a new, harder adventure. It was going to be a scenario that we weren't going to get to play otherwise, and so we just wanted the experience of doing it and didn't really care about advancing. And so with that, towards our argument, we kept trying to see if you could play with us, even though you had already been through it, which immediately nicked repeatedly. And then
to be fair,
eventually we
I don't think the person running the game they were running around like mad people to get this set up, because it takes a lot of work to get this set up. I mean, as I said, everything has to be in perfect order. There's lots of piles. There's things that have to be made. All the decks have to be made, and it's cobbled together from all 3 box sets. So it's just a nightmare to put together, I'm sure. And so as we're kind of hovering around, I'm kind of hanging out saying, I could sit down and play. And they're like, "Nope, you already played. You're out. Get away from us." Like, "Oh, don't need to go on. We just want to sit down and have a good time." "Nope, go. Be gone." It's like, all right, I'm out. So you got
we had just managed to convince them to let us double up, so we were going to both play 2 characters, which I think would have been better, because Mac and I have played together a lot, and we can coordinate more easily that way. And then at the last minute, we were rewarded with 2 more players, one of whom was brand new, and one of whom was a volunteer who was having free time and was like, "Okay, sure, I'll sit and play with these guys if you need me to." So not exactly the experienced and enthusiastic might have hoped to come in and help us run a really difficult scenario.
Yeah,
but
as opposed to the other who all were jumping in and had to be on that thing, punching that sign up at the very beginning just to even get a ticket. You got people who were roped in at the last minute and didn't want to be there. Wasn't even supposed to be working that day.
Yeah, that was unexpected because it was so popular in the other slots. I guess people had just accepted that they weren't going to get in, and so they didn't show up to try and jump in with generics, which left us 2 people with generics short. But it did mean we get to play. We got to find out what all the fuss was about because, and I definitely agree with you about you. It was like, oh, well, this is why you didn't show up after that and jump into the crossover tournament, because it was physically and mentally interesting. And you had to be thinking the entire time. There was not a moment when you could not be. I mean, it was like, oh, you got 100 minutes. It's timed, but okay. But every moment of that 100 minutes was, turn one. We made one stupid mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made one stupid mistake because I was trying to be nice and other people that we didn't know, and blam, just destroyed my first open read a site. And hearing we got a lot less of the table talk because we were far away from the other groups, and we didn't hear a lot of things that I heard from you, like would you survive, and they were impressed anybody scored any points in the positive and all that. So I do feel good that we did, but it was, I would have rather fought the bad guy and just got completely annihilated. Was the way we did, because we did finally pull our crap together at the end. I playing the cleric like a bard, which was apparently the intent, and boosting your pull through and defeat the last thing that that was actually not the do this one more thing and find the villain and have one more turn and get everything set up to try and attack him 3 times, and everybody else was, and we were on the very last turn, and the closing text from my to summon and acquire the bottom card of the blessings deck. Blessings deck is the turn counter, so if we're on the last turn, there is no blessing. But that was a miscalculation, so we just got to, oh nope, sorry, out of quarters.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That was a little choppy, but I think I got the gist. Yeah. And then if you were anything like me, like you said, no thinking after that, just shut down and just let that kind of soak off of you for a little while, right?
Exactly.
And so was that Friday? Did I leave you behind to go to the concert, or was that early enough that I think I made you sit down and play
2 to 4
again.
on Friday.
Yeah, I made you sit down and play another round, didn't I? Yeah, sorry about that. We had there was an open table, and you were kind of stumbling away from that. I'm like, well, would you like to sit down and join us over here? And you're like, got shot in the face. I'm like, well, there's room for you. Here you go. And I think we kind of shuffled the scenario and finished it. But yeah, that was sorry.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I felt a little bad because I wasn't really carrying my weight, but you didn't really need me, luckily. So I just kind of stumbled through. But yeah, it was brutal, and unfortunately meant I had just to rush through the rest of the day because I had to go meet up. I had to finish putting on my costume and meet up with my costume group and try to get in. And you were very helpful and offered to take my bags back to the room for me so I didn't have to take everything.
Yeah, sure.
In which my ticket, in which my ticket for the show that I was going to go meet people for was in that bag. Luckily, you weren't. Were you still in the room, or were still in the hotel?
I was leaving the room and walking toward the elevator, so I just turned around and went back right back in. So when I got back to the room after that, Daniel was on the phone. We were rooming with Daniel Madison in Florida, and he was talking to, sounded like maybe one of his friends from back in Florida, and I got the gist of it that he had made top 8 or whatever for second edition, first edition. What was on Friday? First edition?
I think Friday was first edition.
Yeah, or top 6 or top 4 or whatever it was. So he was not going to go to the concert anymore because he had bought tickets to go to the concert as well. So he gave
Right.
me his ticket and said, "See if you can find anybody who wants it," because he was out, whatever it was, and he had bought the dinner too. He bought the dinner accompaniment, whatever the upgrade was. So I took his tickets. I went down. I gave you your ticket back, and then you went off to your thing. I know you were chowing down on something, and I was like, "Well, should I get something here?" I went and found Mac as the floor show was closing. They were announcing that the doors are now closed. So I'm standing at the door watching everybody walk out, and I said, "Did they just close?" To the person who was watching badges, and she said, "I don't even know." So I just walked in. Uh, she was
Wow.
clearly not caring at all. I probably wouldn't even need a badge to walk in. But Mac, as you know, was working with one of his author friends, and they were at the far end. So we put a little bit of Marco Polo texting each other, trying to figure out where we were. I eventually got to the back where he was, and so we started walking across town to get to the concert. But you were in line for panel game. Remind me what it was.
So some of the actors, the movie gamers series, do an improv show at GenCon every year, and by every year, I think like the last 3 years. So they were at that, and some of the other actors who were here for the con were there to help them and or see them, and we did that last year and had a good time with me and another guy in costume. And this time we had four of us. We had all but one person from the party. And there was a girl last year who was there helping out in that costume from the character we were missing. So we're like, okay, with the four of us, if she's still there, we'll have the whole party, full costume group. And that'll be great. And so we went to that, and they did it's a whole game thing where there's the game master and the three players, and they do it improv style, like long form improv, sort of Hughes line-ish, but they take suggestions for flaws and quirks and classes, and then the GM sort of makes it up around that. And it was really funny, and they have audience participation where people go up on stage and act as NPCs in the game, and they have a little bell that they ring that has them flip between acting like they're at the table. So it's a lot of fun, and then they usually hang out afterwards if anybody wants to take pictures or get things signed. And the guy who I was dressed as was not here last year when I actually shaved my head, which was a little disappointing. He was here this year, but not in the show. So I was like, oh, where is he? Maybe he didn't come. But then he came running across as we were leaving. He had been ushering, I guess, or helping out somehow. But he came running over to where we were leaving and was like, hey, you look familiar. And I was like, hey, you look familiar too, except you have hair. And so he was excited to see me, and I was excited to see him. And we went outside and took a bunch of weird selfies, what I now have on Facebook, and of being monks and him punching me and me, poking him, and then the whole party posing together. So it ended up being a lot of fun. The show was funny anyway. It was funny last year as well, but that was really rewarding to have a bunch of the cast there, and then being excited to see us, and getting to see Brian, who was not there last year, be excited about my costume and ask all kinds of questions about it. So as much as I wanted to go to Concert Against Humanity, I was very happy that I made the decision to stick around and do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you maybe watched that movie once, and was that the one where the bard kept dying over and over again?
That's the one.
Yeah, okay, very good.
In fact, one of the jokes that we had for next year was to all go as dead bards.
That's hilarious. While you were doing that, I was at the aforementioned Concert Against Humanity, and if they come back next year, we are all going to that, because I laughed until I cried. It was amazing. I'm looking at some pictures that one of the guys who was on stage was taking, and I think I'm just to the right of all of them, because he was on the far left side of the stage, and we were on my seats were on the far right side of the stage. But it was just amazing. All the musical acts were hilarious. The two stand-ups were hilarious. Uh, there was a lightsaber battle with the governor of Indiana about the whole, uh, political situation, and it was just amazing. I can't say enough. We got a little bag of swag to bring back with some flux cards and all kinds of stuff, and I ended up eating Daniel Madison's dinner of a premium pretzel and some. Well, I would call it cheese, but it was enough not to be like cheese that I didn't have a lactate and it didn't bother me. So probably not a lot
Wow.
of cheese in it, but it was really
Processed
tasty.
cheese food.
Yeah, it was what they feed the real cheese. And the two author fellows, Patrick Rothfuss,
Rothfuss.
yes, and who's the other guy? John Scalzi.
Scalzi.
Hilarious. They did a reading from this radio play from long ago. Um, it was amazing. The whole thing was just fantastic. Uh, in fact, the swag bag contained something that we went back to and played with on Monday at the airport, but I'll get to that in a bit. Double clicks, Molly Lewis, everyone was hilarious, just amazing. And I walked over there like with Mac at I think the concert started at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, so we walked over there at 6:30 or so. Had great seats, second row, and they had an intermission, and Mac had to go back because he had a True Dungeon run, which of course he did. And I got to lean over where his seat was, because it was kind of cramped up there, and enjoy the second half of the show. I can't say enough. It was great. Definitely worth it. We'll totally go again next year and drag everybody with me. So be on the lookout for that. I walked back after Tribbles was over. It was well past 11:30 or so, I think, when I got back. So I missed Friday night Tribbles. But I met up with Charlie and I want to say Daniel Madison was there, and then everyone else started showing up, Lobons and random Jersey folks, and we just kept making the table bigger and bigger. And I think you showed up eventually too, didn't you, on Friday night?
I did. It was very late because I ended up also doing a True Dungeon run.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and so there was more Cards Against Humanity and more food at that. Actually, the food at the Velocity was really good. I had a good time. I think that was the night I had the salmon, lettuce, bacon, and tomato or sandwich or something like the salmon club or something. Really good. And that was the end of my day. But how was the True Dungeon run? I haven't done True Dungeon in forever.
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't done True Dungeon since we did True Dungeon.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, I've always talked about it, and I've sort of kept up a little bit with people who've done it, but I just have never gotten around to it. I think last year when we were doing GenCon, I spammed all of it, like 7 or 8 of us who were going, and said, okay, we're all going to GenCon. Let's all do a True Dungeon run together. Who's in? What times? And I got crickets. And so the date came and went.
Uh-oh.
And we're back.
Yeah, that was odd. Welcome back.
Weird. But yeah, I had friends who from the gamers group that had an extra ticket and apparently are super into it, and which I did not know at the time. And I told them in advance, hey, I haven't played in 10 years, 2006, so 9 years since it came out almost. I remember the wooden toggles that they gave out as tokens rather than these plastic fancy chips and everything. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. You can play something fun. And I went with the Bard because it's like, well, do you like to sing? Because they love it when you sing. I think they actually give you extra points. And I was like, sure, I'll sing. I'll be the Bard. I can sit there and memorize things and give people buffs, and then I don't have to worry about how bad I am at discus, or not discus, shuffleboard. But holy crap, man, I had forgotten that they moved actually into an entire part of the hall. Like, we're in, the card hall is B through E, and hall F is True Dungeon, and it's huge. and the effects are really complex. And man, I kind of felt like I walked into Nationals or Worlds and said, "Yeah, I got the starter deck," and somebody walked in and handed me their backup deck from day one and said, "Here, play this," because that's basically what happened. I sat down and was like, "Oh, you're a bard. What kind of gear you have?" And I held up the little baggie of tokens that they gave me when they walked in. It's like, I have this. They're like, "Oh," and one of the guys popped open like one of those plastic cases for nuts and bolts, but pulled out, and he had them subdivided into stacks. And he's like, "This is my bard gear set." Like, we're in WoW, and he's just flipping between characters, and he goes, "Here, map this out." So if you remember correctly, we used to have to. It was like, "Oh, look, I'm using my +1 sword," and you showed it to the guy in the room, and he made sure you had a bonus. Now they have this room where everybody sits down. We were apparently in trouble because we only had 9 people instead of the full 10 party size. And they have a sheet with with your body. It's like Diablo, all of your slots on your body, and you put out all your what tokens you're wearing in each slot, and then any other ancillary items or consumables you keep on you. But you bust those out. They do the math in advance on a chart that you keep with you for your party. So you just hand it to the GM whenever you walk into each room, and they can see all your bonuses and penalties and everything. And then you can put all your expensive fancy loot away so you don't drop it in the dungeon. And so a guy gave me all of that, and then I gave it all back to him after they wrote it down. And the people I was with gave me a couple of backup, like, "Oh, here's some rations, and here's a healing potion, and here's a loot, so you can play it as a bard." And that was about it. But it was cool. Of the spellcasting things, if you'll recall, all of the spellcasting involves memorization of some kind.
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
it's
I still have some of that
symbols or
chart memorized.
charts. Yeah, I think I picked the best possible one for me because the bard magic is all sort of symbols that are related to concepts. And so it was very easy for me to create mnemonics based on what each one of them looked like. Magic and chaos and evil and good and lightning and all of these things, like 28 of them, I think, as opposed to like, the cleric has to memorize these little beads, and the druid, oh my god, is like silhouettes of leaves.
Oh wow.
Different leaves from different trees. Oh man, no way. But I totally picked the right one. I totally impressed all of the. Every time the GM's like, "Oh, you're the bard. Do you have what song are you going to sing?" And I was like, "Song? I don't have just one spell here. I have 8 spells here, so I will have 9 songs, because also bard song." Which made them all laugh. And I think I only cast like 1 spell, but I always did bard song to beef everybody up, and I had a bunch of songs for that, which was fun. And I kind of helped do a puzzle once, which was fun, but I never really felt like I was crucial. Somebody else figured out the meta puzzle right away, picking names and colors out of each room, and I told people the spider was susceptible to fire, so they did the fire, but they were destroying it so hard, I don't think it mattered. But I did get to contribute when we get to the very end. We were playing the puzzle version versus the fight version, which apparently the only difference is the last room. And we had almost all the meta puzzle figured out, but we were running out of time. And I managed to figure out that so if the spiders touch you, you die. But there were little holes to put crystals in, but also at the bottom of those holes were little handles. So if I timed it just right to grab it before a spider touched me and pull on the handle to see what would happen. And under each of those were actual clues to where everything was supposed to go. So we were able to confirm where everything went real fast, find the ones we had wrong, and skedaddle.
Nice.
So I was mostly along for the ride with all the high-level troops, but I got to contribute in the end. So I felt like I earned my survivor badge.
Let the bard stick his hand in.
Yeah.
He's replaceable.
I'm totally expendable. I have no gear worth remembering. So I got all my loot. We got maximum loot, and I gave all the stuff to the people I was with, and I they gave me, oh, here's stuff that's kind of good, but I don't need it. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to do this again for another 10 years, but as long as you don't need it, here, take the good stuff.
Nice.
But it was very entertaining. I'm very glad I went. It's still on the very expensive side. I think I would only do it again if we were in a group. Though even then, we would have to do like our friend Chris Loban was saying. They did like a sealed deck, so everybody was just going on whatever tokens they had.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if let's say 10 of us got together, right, and all put in our $52 or whatever. Is that what it is now? 52?
Yeah.
Even if we did that, we'd all be going in pretty much, I'd have that same bag that I used 9 years ago. You'd have all the stuff that you got, and everyone else would be looking around for their, looking in the magic bag that everyone got for the commons and uncommon things that aren't going to be any good.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty tough, especially if we have to do any fighting at all, right?
Yeah. Well, we might be able to find like a sponsor. Can we borrow your collection for a run?
Yeah, right.
And just or have them come with us and outfit everybody. If they didn't want to part with it.
Sure.
The duration, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine doing it otherwise. Just get hammered. But it was definitely a lot of fun, especially going with people who knew what they were doing. So I didn't feel like I was, too much of an anchor, dragging people down. But very cool to see how far it's come in the intervening years.
Certainly, they're certainly, if nothing else, a lot bigger. The last time we went, was that at GenCon SoCal?
It was.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how long it was. Yeah.
Right behind Will Wheaton.
That's right. Yeah.
After he was Will Wheaton, but before he was Will Wheaton.
All right. So that ends Friday, right?
Yes. Saturday, I think we also decided to take it a little easy because we had the whole day, but we skipped the first slot.
Right. We started at 10 o'clock and we entered at. Did we stop?
Midnight?
Yeah. No, we stopped in time for tribbles because we went over.
Well, yeah. You did.
Yeah, because I had to go start things up, so I probably left at 9:45 or so, and to go distribute tribbles decks and what were you doing? Did you join us for tribbles, or were you still? I don't know.
We so the interesting thing about Saturday was that instead of closing at 6, ACG was open till midnight. And I had a sealed deck planned for My Little Pony from 2 to 6. So we were like, okay, if we can go 8 to 2, and then 6 to midnight. We have 2 6-hour sessions around my sealed deck, which quickly devolved to, well, no, let's go at 10 and take a 10 to 2, and then we'll come back and do until tribbles. But when we came back from dinner, we're like, okay, we did one, and there was a couple of new guys with us, and we're like, they had been pretty good, but they were a little more newbie, I guess, because the second scenario was a little harder, and it took a little longer. And we're like, we could try to get one more in before tribbles, and then if we need to, you could run back and get started, and I could join. And by the time I joined you, there was already a table done with round 1.
Yeah, I remember now. So that was the time we got to play. I got to play the new character. I got to play the druid. So I think while you were where you were ponying, I went and got the druid deck and played a few rounds. I don't think I left that area the whole day. I don't think I did. All day Saturday. I think I was there the whole time. So I played my character in the morning, and I played the new character, the druid character, in the afternoon. So when you joined, you came back, we played until I had to run for tribbles. I left everything on the table, and then you brought my stuff back to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, that went well. I had a great time. I take it back. I think I walked around the con floor a bit toward the end of the day. Now that I think about it, there were a couple times when I broke and walked around the con floor. I think during the crossover event, since I got there so late, I stopped and wandered the con
Right.
floor because one of the things I had done is gone through all of my old Magic cards out in the garage, just like I did at Origins. I brought a few things that I could trade in and get another box of dragons because dragons. Um, Playing dragons is fun. Magic the Gathering had a set of dragons a while ago, and it's just that I had a good time with that. So I traded another $75 or so worth of cards and paid another $25 or so and got another box of cards to draft. So that was fun. And I think I might have wandered around. I bought some more little itty bitty dice to go with my Pathfinder stuff. And I think I made one other purchase, but I don't have any recollection of what that was. Oh, I found the game for Jesse, the Bad Detectives game that he wanted to buy us.
Right.
So that was fun. I got to wander the floor a bit. I hadn't done that in a while. In fact, I want to say that this year felt less crowded than it has been in the past. I don't know if it's because there were less people or everything was a little bit wider, or maybe I wanted off times. But I felt like I was not run out of the convention center as I had been in previous years, trying to walk around and see things. I actually wandered around, talked to a bunch of people, picked up the freebie things at the Ultra Pro booth, bought myself a box for the ACG, and did some shopping. Never did buy a shirt, but I found one that was interesting. And then you bought it.
I offered to pick one up for you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Saturday was all adventure card game all the time. I did want to go by and see how the second edition was going, but I never did make it over there. I think at 10 o'clock when we started up the Tribbles, the second edition finals were still going on. So that was a long night.
I think the championship game was over, but the second place game was still going.
Okay, that makes sense.
It was the last round of the 3-round round robin for the finals. The top 4 playing 3 games, and so the winner had been determined, gone undefeated, but 2 and 3 were still duking it out for number 2 spot.
Right. All right. Then we played Tribbles into the night, and I don't even remember. I'm sure I got beaten with my own deck again. We'll just say that because that's probably what happened. And then we wrapped for the evening. I'm guessing we probably went back to Velocity afterward for dinner to grab a bite, maybe?
Actually, that was when we went back and think that the kitchen was starting to close, and so everything was to-go orders.
That's
right. So
we
placed orders at the bar and waited for them because the pizza was going to take an hour and a half to get there.
Yes, I remember that now. Yes, I had another good meal there. I got the turkey burger, and for some reason they dumped 2 patties on the thing instead of 1. I guess because it was closing time. Bonus patty. And I took a glass of wine with me, and we played more Cards Against Humanity until probably early morning, and then called it a night because the next day was the Tribbles Championship, and we had to be awake for that.
Yeah.
Right?
The important tournament.
But before that, we went and played more Pathfinder in the morning, didn't we?
Well, I had a sealed deck Saturday. That
that's
skipped.
right. We did skip over that.
Because it was kind of sort of the intermission for you of ACG. That was when you were walking around. But I had to do I wanted to get at least one pony event in. And shortly before we left, I actually agreed to run a pre-release sealed deck event because otherwise there wouldn't be one in San Diego for the next set that's coming out in about 2 weeks now. And so I figured, since we've never had somebody officially do a real event here and we need somebody to do it, and I have volunteered to do it, I should actually play in one with somebody who knows what they're doing. So even though I punted almost all of my other events that I had signed up for to play ACG this weekend, that was one I had to stick to so that I could know what I was talking about. So I headed over. It was 8-pack sealed, which I was excited about because I'm tired of the starter deck sealed, because we always buy the starter decks and then we have the cards and don't need any more. But I got to meet up with a friend who I actually sort of met via Origins. I don't know if you'll recall, while we were at Origins, Caitlin emailed me frantically a fan fiction about the 100 in an alternate universe where they were playing the My Little Pony card game. So very narrow, very focused target audience, but obviously us. Me and Caitlin, and I gave it to Charlie, who read it and thought it was hilarious. And so basically have been worshiping the author of this online and going back and chatting with her on Tumblr. She was at GenCon for the championships and is actually like a really well-known player. She was playing in top 16 in Worlds that day. Unfortunately, she got paired up, her and her two sort of teammates from the same shop where they had all been working together, all got paired up in the elimination rounds in the finals. So like two of them had to play, and then the winner had to play the other. So that narrowed their chances. But the third member of their party won. So that was good. And her being eliminated meant she had time to come and play in the sealed deck that I was there for. So I got to meet up with her. I had loaned them some cards for the Worlds that they needed to borrow and got those back. And so that was fun. I pulled probably one of the best ultra rares in the game, which I didn't know. I was like, hey, Sunset Shimmer. I like Sunset Shimmer. Cool. I'll play that color. And as I said that, like, all heads at the table turned towards me, and they were like, holy crap, yeah, you better play that. And two other people down the table are like, I'm going to see you when we're done because I want to trade that off of you. Nice. And meanwhile, the girl who I met up with is like, do not trade that card. You play that card, use that card right now, and you'll see how awesome it is, and you need to keep that so you can put it in your decks. I was like, well, I just got one in the box, so I have two. She's like, you want three. So that was cool to have her have my back and sort of, I put my deck together. It was pretty decent, but it was nice for her to, she kind of went through and confirmed that I wasn't doing anything too stupid, and helped me, like, well, you could play this. You might want to take this out in favor of that, but in general, this is decent, and so that was nice. And then she beat me, but that's to be expected. But we played 4 rounds, quick 30-minute rounds, and I had fun against everybody I played. There was no blowouts, and we all had a good time, and I got some good cards for a deck. All of my deck cards, my rares seemed to work together, and after we were done, I got to have a fun game, which is when you came over and joined us with Charlotte Trash. She had put together a deck based on the fanfic with cards like made of those characters, which is funny because I had put together a deck in the theme of one of the decks from her fanfic. And so we're like, well, we have to have a fanfic game because this is ridiculous. And she was very embarrassed, and she was both very excited to have somebody appreciate her weird imagined world, but also she's like a known player amongst all of these people, and so it was like, well, can we go somewhere else and play so they don't see me playing this? But oh well, whatever, this is my life. And and it was hilarious because people kept walking by and were like, what are you doing? Like when I would play with my Firefly deck in 2E.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
But it was a lot of fun, and we did a lot of stupid stuff that you would never do in a real game just to have it be thematically appropriate, and had a good time. So that was fun to get to meet somebody that I'd only had a chance to chat with, and get to know sort of a new meta and a new play group. I was impressed that they had such a big group for their Continentals, and they all seem to, unfortunately, apparently it's a very dead meta right now. There was apparently only one deck in the top 16 that was not one of 2 deck types. But in general, everybody seems to be having fun with the game. So hopefully, if the company that makes it can pull their head out of their ass, we can keep having a good game and maybe get something else going in the local area.
Well,
but after that,
yeah, I was gonna say, nothing else. You know what to play at the local tournaments now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And in the end, I ended up trading away that extra ultra rare because I was like, I could keep this and have a super badass deck that I would destroy people with, and I would come home and destroy like the 3 people here that play with me, and none of them will play with me again. Or I can trade this to the really cool girl who helped me out a lot and get a card that only a few people have access to and none of the other people's had, and she didn't like bug me to trade for it like all these other people did. So I didn't. She gave me a really good deal, and I got this. I showed you, even for not a pony fan, you have to admit that that foil was pretty awesome looking.
It was artfully done, definitely.
Yes. So I got that and a handful of other promos that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to get my hands on. So that was a nice takeaway from all of that, in addition to the experience.
Right. So there was one other thing on Friday, and that was right before you were doing your pony thing. No, that was Saturday. Right. So Saturday. Anything else on Saturday? Did we talk about Saturday?
We did.
Right. So
we
Saturday.
had ACG in the morning, ponies, right. ACG in the evening, triples.
Right. So the semifinals were Saturday for the open event.
Yes.
And my team had enough points that it was into the semifinals or the quarterfinals. So there were of the 12 teams that took the top 4, and the top 4 would play in the second scenario that they made up on Saturday at 11. So I think I went at 4 o'clock. So there were 2 teams at 2 o'clock and 2 teams at 4 o'clock, and my team was at 4 o'clock. So I sat down with the same 4 guys, and I think I was playing in a different game, and they were mustering. I was like, yeah, I'm over here. So, I finished our fun game and then went over and played that game. And we were all expecting the absolute worst after, the first round. And it was, they took all the characters, leveled them up a bit, and then gave us a bunch of powerful stuff, and then put all the other powerful things that we didn't have out on the board and said, collect as much as you can because you're getting points based on how much you get. So it was just this amazing loot run. This monster was moving around the board at random times, and we had to dive into one pile. And once we found the medium loot, then the monster got shuffled in. And once we beat the monster, we got the good loot, and we had to close 2 of the 4 locations to open up another location. And then once we closed 2 more locations, another location would open up. It was designed to not be winnable, so we weren't too terrible. We were told that in the beginning. We were told that it was unlikely that we were going to, win, but we did want to be able to move on. So I think we just kept pounding. There's one particular card that I think is completely overpowered, and I was playing the mage, so I made everyone stop what they were doing so we could get it. And then I turned into the bard and just helped everyone else make all their fights ridiculously easy for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, our thief didn't die this time, and we got to the end and we just scored a bunch of loot, and they were totaling things up. Since we were in the 4 o'clock game and they had already done the 2 o'clock game, they were able to tell us that the 2 4 o'clock teams beat the 2 2 o'clock teams and would advance. So 2 teams out of the 4 got to go to the finals, and it would be us and the other team that was playing right next to us, who were hooting, hollering, as much as we were, and all the good rules. So we were notified that on Sunday morning at, was it 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock? Maybe in the morning sometime, well enough ahead of triples that it wouldn't interfere. We would be playing in the finals, which would be, the super hard 3rd level of the thing. And
right.
After that was over, it was completely the opposite feeling as the first one, being completely drained and never wanted to think ever again. We were psyched up. We were bouncing off the tables. We were just ready to go and jump right back into something. And I think that's when I walked over and found you at the pony table before we were going to go grab something to eat or something.
Right.
So I had a fantastic time. And if we're going to rebuild any of the adventures, man, that's the one that would be the most fun. We should do the first one first again, but that's the one I'm be looking forward to, playing that adventure with 4 of us. That would be awesome. That would be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that a lot. Nice. I think when we were finished with that is when I was the most depressed that I wasn't playing with you and Mac and Charlie, because I think we would have just run the table on so much stuff there.
We are good at looting.
Oh, man, that was a lot of fun. That was probably the most fun of the 3 games, just because we were playing high-level guys with high-level loot, beating up high-level monsters. It was fun. It was a good time. and then that leads us to ponies, and then triples at 10 o'clock, and then late night going to the bar and getting food and taking it back up to the second floor and playing more Cards Against Humanity and crashing, and that leads to Sunday morning,
which is the finals.
which is the finals. I want to say that we got up and went over to the ACG hall, and I found the same box that I was using the previous day, so I was able to use my character again, the same druid.
We went for the O Dark 30, the 8 a.m. game again, because Chris was finally going to get a chance to get away and join us. And so we're like, all right, okay, let's get up so we can, play with him. And we started new characters. Or you had fiddled a little with the druid, and I had fiddled a little with the paladin, and so we did those with his monk.
Yeah,
and that was great. We got a couple of games in, or we got a game in at least. We kept playing when it was time for you to go and play in the open final.
Yeah. So at that point, I learned that. So I said there was 3 other guys, and nobody really knew each other. The guy was playing the fighter was awesome. The guy was playing the cleric was awesome. The guy was playing the thief. It turns out the thief player was the 5th of his play group that all went to GenCon to play in this tournament, and he was cast off. He it would have been like 5 of us went, and he had to buy a ticket and play with some other team. Well, it turns out that the other 4 people in his group were the team we were playing against in the finals.
Wow.
So it was his friends at that other table against us, and by this time we clicked pretty well. We we kind of knew what each other were, how our play styles were, and at one point, I think it was in the second game, we were looking around the table and looking at our starting hands and what we were going to do, and maybe it was before our starting hands. We were deciding, because you can look at the sites and decide where everyone's going to go. And the guy sitting next to me, the fighter, and I, he was on my right, was like, well, we got to decide who goes first. Why don't you go first and I'll go last? And we both got up, switched seats, and sat back down again, and kind of looked at the person running the table and was like, can we do that? I was like, yeah, man, if I think it's a good idea, go for it. So, we were totally on the same page certainly by the third round. And we sat down and they said, okay, we've leveled up the same characters that you've had before to as high as they'll go. And, we're looking at all the check marks on our sheets, and we're thinking, all right, it's going to be awesome. We're all powered up. You get most of the loot that we found in the previous game. We got we were given in this. So we got all the level 6 loot. It's everything you could want. If you've played the game all the way through, by the end, your deck is just super powered. Everything's customized exactly. I won't say that it's super, min-maxed, because it's cards from all 3 sets, and it's kind of hard to get everything working together. And there were a lot of decisions made as far as the character path that I probably wouldn't have taken, but it was still pretty awesome. And then they said, okay, take a look at all the cards in your deck, get familiar with them, and then make your own starting hand, and we'll start. So not only do we have all this power we wanted, so it was like, well, I remember what I had last time. I remember what I wanted to have last time, so I just made up something that looked great. Guy next to me, he's this fighter with his 2 or 3 weapons and his armor and his, a couple of blessings, and everyone was just ready to go. And so the guy who designed the game, Mike
Seliger.
Yeah, Seliger, sits down, who I had previously met in a previous day in an amusing tale. We were sitting around, and the previous maybe it was Saturday, Friday, or something, and we're playing. I think it must have been the day when we were playing our high-level characters, because I was really into the game. And some people, walk around the tables all the time. Somebody walked up behind me and said, hey, what are you guys playing? And without looking up, I said, it's the Pathfinder adventure card game. And I hear chuckling behind me, and everyone at the table is laughing at me, because it's this guy, Mike, who made up the Pathfinder adventure card game.
He replies, yes, I'm familiar with it.
He wanted to know what scenario we were playing, turns out, not what game we were playing. But everyone had a good laugh at my expense, and apparently that story was told several times. Yes, by you. Anyway, so I knew who it was this time when he sat down to run the game. And it was closer to our first game where we had to we had like 50 turns instead of the standard 30, and we had to close as many locations, and we get points for closing locations and opening up the last locations. The last guy to fight, typically the boss has combat 24 and combat 30 or something, really high. This guy's combat was, it said combat 50, combat 50, combat 50, and then but the third one didn't just say combat 50, it said combat 350. So we asked what that meant, and she said, Tana walks by and says, the person who's administering, I didn't have room for all 5 checks, but it's really combat 50, combat 50, combat 50, combat 50, combat 50, which is ridiculous. I mean, that doesn't happen. So the whole idea was this guy's wandering around, and we got to, he's going everywhere, and if we don't want to fight him until the very end, and he's going to appear at the last location or something. I don't know. I don't remember much other than just pains. We started off really fast. By that time we knew that they were setting everything up to kill us, right? So the first thing we did is we shuffled every location. We went around, and the thief would encounter something and said, "Oh, I don't care, I evade." And then we'd shuffle up the pile, and Mike would go, "Oh." And then we'd scry over there for monsters and shuffle the pile, and Mike would go, "Oh." We closed 2 locations really quick, and he was like, "Well, you guys are certainly, on your way here." And then we just got bogged down so much. There was one location that all Banes, which are the bad cards, were increased by the scenario adventure number, which was 6.
Yeah.
And the thing we're fighting is this war thing where everyone has to make a weird check. And I think half of our time, we ran out of time, not turns time. We ran out of time because what took the longest is figuring out what check everyone across the table is going to make, because you can't just do combat.
Right.
You have to do 2 combats, and someone has to make a knowledge check, and someone has to make a range check or a divine check. And so we're all trying to figure out what pattern, what scenario where you can play blessing over here and I can make that check and you can make that range check easily. That leaves a combat check for the fighter, and then the priest, the cleric has to do a combat check. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So maybe I can do a combat check, but I'm with the guy. If I'm with someone, I can make their combat check, a breeze. So why don't we have these 2? It was just a logistical nightmare, and we took a lot of time trying to figure out who was going to do what. As time was running out, we had a couple turns left. We knew where the monster was, and we just said, all right, let's just go over there. I'm going to skip my turn. I'm just going to draw cards quickly, get ready. The fighter's over there. He's going to get ready. I'm going to make it easy for you. I'm going to roll twice. He just hack. All right, he's defeated. Roll to close the location. All right, discard your hand or whatever. All right, the location's closed. All right, we just scored a bunch of points. Let's not die. All right, why don't you go over there and just explore and see if we can find something. Maybe we can close it right away. And he flipped over something, and it was a monster, and he evaded it, and we started shuffling, and then time ran out. And it had been, 75 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever it was, just went by, in a blink, as we're, just, as you said, constantly thinking and planning the entire time, not just on your turn, but everyone else's turn, planning for your turn, trying to help them on their turn. At some point, after we close the first 2 locations, Mike spreads on the table. He says, here are some blessings and this really cool cohort that you can use, and she'll give you like 5d20 on every roll, and these blessings will give you a d20 on any check, and you can use any of them. It'll only cost you 5 points, 5 tournament points for every card you use. And we looked at it, and we looked at him, and we pretty much all just turned our back on him. We kept playing. And we didn't end up using any of them. After time was called, we all started shuffling around. Our thief guy went over and talked to his friends, and they came back over here and talked to us, and they said, well, we closed that location on our last turn, and that we had closed the location on our second to last turn, so we were neck and neck. But they had used 3 of those bonuses for 15 points. So since we were even, that meant that we had 15 more points than them, and we ended up being the winner for not falling to temptation.
Wow, talk about thematic.
It was pretty amazing. So, we shook hands and, fist bumped everyone, and mingled around and talked about it, how much fun we had, and then they gave out prizes, and the prize was you get your choice of any of the box sets, and all the expansions and all the promos, and play mat and anything you want. So I chatted around with you and with Chris, and our group has all 3 box sets, so we really didn't need any more of that. But Chris only had the first set, so I took the second set and took one over to him and dropped a pile of cards in front of him and said, "There you go, thank you for all your work to do and everything. Have a good time." So I ended up giving those to him. Unfortunately, all the game designers and everyone signed the box, so he had to deal with the signed box. Oh well. And I sent him off with all the big set. So that was a lot of fun. I kept the promos. I think I might have given him. Did I give him the promos? I think I kept the promos because I didn't have all the promos for the first set. And I kept the extra mat. So now I have 2 mats. I think I'm going to give one to Charlie to go with his box set. Or you have a mat as well?
I do not.
You do not. Maybe I'll give it to you then. So we'll always have one around. But anyway, it was a fantastic time, and I posted on the boards. They took a picture of us, right? The winning group. I think they took a picture of the second place team as well. But I was wearing my Star Trek volunteer shirt, so that was perfect. So we got some free advertising on their blog as well. And then, I had a great time. So I was, I won the inaugural Open, world champion of the world. But as someone else, I think I was talking to Debbie about it, said, "Oh, you're world champion again." I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of the same." I feel like this was the first time they had the big world championship, and next year it's going to be a lot harder, and there's going to be a lot more people, and my chance of winning is going to be a lot slimmer. It's just like that triples victory that I got, the triples world championship. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to repeat it, but I think if the 4 of us get together, I think we have a good chance.
It would be nice to play all together.
Yeah, certainly. We'll have to figure out, at the very least, we got to, for the semifinal or the quarterfinals, there were a couple of time options, so we might be able to plan around it if all 4 of us can sit down and play. We should definitely plan on doing that.
Or if there are multiple slots and one person has a ticket for an early slot, but there's a chance of playing all together at a later slot, we'll have to try and maybe play together at the later slot.
Yeah,
where there were open seats.
I would totally be down for that. Now that with hindsight, that would have been the way to go, certainly. Or at least 3 of us, right? 3 of us and someone who's not new. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. That sounds like it was an amazing experience. I'm glad that you were able to do it so that we could hear about it, and hopefully maybe they'll publish it somewhere on the website or something, so we can maybe play it on the side or something, and we can plan for next year.
Yeah, they said that they can't publish it right now because a lot of the cards that we were playing with aren't out yet. They were part of Adventure Path 4 and 5 of
Wow.
Wrath, which is why we're flipping over things and we're looking at it like, you got to be kidding me. So but no, they said they would publish it. So we'll have to bash my kit and your kit and Charlie's kit together and set it up and run through that. But yeah, definitely an amazing time, and one of the 2 things that I will certainly be doing again next year.
Awesome.
So after that, we mingled around, and did we play again, or did we just wander over for tribbles? Because it was about time for.
I think we played. I'm not sure if you played with us one more time, but I know Chris and I played at least a couple more times. So I think we were able to finish most of Adventure 1. But yeah, eventually we did have to pass on the next game and head over for tribbles. Trying to think. I think maybe I passed. Did we split up? Because I think I went and hit the floor briefly.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Maybe Chris went and got food or something. But I definitely hit and did one more pass through the floor on my way back to tribbles to pick up a few things.
But eventually we all made it back for Tribbles Continentals, and everyone was turning in deck lists and borrowing decks and turning in tickets. I think at that point, oh, I know what I did. I went back and cashed in my generics for store credit.
That's right.
Yeah, there wasn't much of a line, so that was nice. Unfortunately, uh, yeah, it was 90% on the dollar or something like that,
Yeah.
which wasn't too bad. I was able to get a 90% refund on my $4 ticket that I had for Continentals, and I was able to use generics for the rest of it. And it sounded like we had enough butts and seats over the course that between everyone else donating the rest of their generics, because it was the last day, and all the triples players, we were able to fill out most of our seats, I think, so we can stay at our premier status or whatever.
Yeah,
Because we
which
were
was
actually,
great.
yeah,
We were in the program.
I know, and I got a program here. I saved it. Eventually, I got to pass it over to Charlie because I don't think he was able to grab one. That's why I grabbed
Oh,
mine.
yeah.
Because we're in here, and that's amazing. Um, did you make it to the finals triples table this year?
I did. Due in large part thanks to Josh Sheets.
No. Was he giving away lots of points to everyone?
Yeah, and I think he almost gave away his own spot, which is what happens. He scores a lot, but then he also he gives the game away at times just because of his play style. High risk, high reward. But I let's just say, so Phil Schrader was at our table. He went out in round three, round four, towards the end of the game with 8 Fizbins in his pile. He had been playing battle.
Mm-hmm.
He scored 1.312 triples in one round and was still in third place.
Third?
Yeah, because I want to say Andrew.
Bowling?
Yeah, Andrew Bowling had been copying and sabotaging the crap out of my deck to do the same thing I was doing, which was poisoning and utilizing the crap out of Josh's deck. And he was like 3,000 points ahead of Phil. And I was only like 200,000 points ahead of both of them.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, going into the last round, it was like 1.5 million to 1.36 or 1.32 million to 1.31 million.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good. I think I had north of 500,000 triples as being in second place. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen because it was the top player from every pod plus one, I think.
Yeah.
And then your scores came in. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. I was wrong. We made it. I said we weren't going to make it through round 4. We did, but we didn't make it through round 5. And yeah, we had 3 people, in the neighborhood of 1.5 million. So, yeah, we definitely pulled through. And then Andrew almost pulled out the last table too, wild card. It was a much less high scoring game because there was not a Josh, and there was only one battle player, and he was not paying out, and Sean was playing one go tango, 100 utilize, and very fast. Playing lots of numbers and going out quickly for not very much, and counting on his mid scoring to get him to pull ahead, which lasted most of the game until Herman went out at the end, who was the battle player, and that put him ahead. But I just couldn't hit the right numbers. Playing the tricks deck is all luck unless you have Josh Sheets at the table, and Herman's deck was almost all tallies. And so he was already winning, and I didn't want to put him farther ahead. So I was trying to hit big monies on other people, and it just wasn't coming up.
Yeah.
And then the people who were willing to hit him and take the chance were getting like the 2. He said he had like 2 or 3 clones in his deck, and the rest were all 100,000 tallies, and they kept hitting the clones. I was like, well, Either I can try to keep, if everybody's going to hit him and keep tallying him, he's just going to pull ahead. It's one thing if only one person is doing it and you both move up incrementally together. But then if everybody's doing it, it really does give them a significant advantage. So I was trying to not contribute, and it cost me. So, but Herman pulled it out. He did a good job. He hung in to the very end. So congratulations to him for pulling out the Continentals win.
Yeah, got a nice mat out of it.
Yeah, no, fantastic mat. I got to use mine from Worlds last year, but that Continentals one looks really sharp. And a tribble and a plaque. The plaques were so cool.
Yes, we cannot say enough about the plaques. All the top finalists and all the across the board got these beautiful, like they are encased in plastic, little trophy plaques, and they were nice, in a good size to put on something. Not the big, tall things that take us.
Yeah,
maybe about as tall as a card, or half, card on its side, and maybe as wide as like a nameplate or something. It said Continental Championship. They were really nicely done, very well put together.
Yeah. But that ran us.
Yeah, I ended up getting second on both pods. So I got second in my first pod and second in my second pod.
Consistent.
Yeah. And I think at Worlds last year at GenCon, I was in 8th place as well, because we had more people, and I was in first place of the second place table, and there were 7 people in the first pod. So I was at 8th place both times. That's fantastic.
Wow.
I want to say I was running at the very end. I had given away all the decks but 2. And I think I asked somebody which one I should play, and they pointed toward a poison deck, so I played poison in the last round. It was fun. Haven't played that in a while. So this is the Gen Con booklet, and here we are, the continuing committee, and there's a nice little blurb about us and the logo and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, something for Charlie's scrapbook on page 55.
And that was it. Tribbles took us through to the end. In fact, past the end, we had some very nice Gen Con workers who were trying to clean up work around us. And in the last round, they even started asking players who were not involved in the finals to clear out. But they did let us stay, and they let us finish, which was very nice. And then once we were done, very quickly packed up and cleared out so we could do that. But we made our way back to the hotel, and then we had yet another evening of dinner at the hotel. In fact, this night we played because we had been talking about it all weekend to Daniel Madison, our poor roommate, hearing nothing but ACG exploits. And it's like, what is this game? What does it happen? And so we rolled out the mat at dinner, at the dinner table in the hotel restaurant, and played. Because we had 5 players with our Wednesday game, so he was our 6th, and we taught him how to play, and gave him the fighter because it's usually easy to pick up, and he closed 2 locations in one turn in the first round. And he's like, yeah, this is a fun game. Yeah, it's like I can pick this up pretty quick. It's like, yeah, sure,
yeah,
great, good job.
Yeah, that was fun. We got around it.
Yeah, no, it was hilarious, and it was awesome. Great first experience.
And the table we were sitting at was this huge round table, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
The only thing was what the problem was we had more people filtering in, and they were kind of off to the side. I felt kind of bad that they were over there when we were playing, but no, it was still a good time. And then you took off to go see your other friends, and then we went upstairs to set up Fibbage on Chris Lobon's laptop, and we played that for hours and hours. We had so many people. We were subbing people in and out, and I remember, was it Will or it was Nick that joined us, and no one was voting for him, and it turned out that his sense of humor was just a little bit off for the rest of us. So I was like,
yeah,
convinced Will to join in so someone would get his jokes.
I don't get the British humor.
It was a good time. We played that for quite a while. And then I think we called it a night, and we went up and crashed for the last evening, and we were like, oh, don't wake us up until 10.
Yeah,
right?
Late checkout.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep until we wake up.
Daniel and our other roommate were gone by the time I think we woke up. They had early flights. And there was something I didn't mention to you. Uh, so our roommate was there as a dealer and bought a bunch of lots from the auction, like just big boxes
Right.
of cards and left behind. I actually pulled a long tube full of cards out of the big pile of cards that was for I forgot what the term she used for the bin. Anyway,
Oh
things we
yeah.
were going to leave behind. Did you get to see what I grabbed?
No, I had been told that it was all crap and not to bother.
It was, except for this box, which is full of uh,
Whiteboard or something.
close. Yeah, these
Wow.
are Pirates of the whatever Spanish Main or the old
Yeah.
Whiz Kids, plastic thing. You pop them out and put them together.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I got a big, huge tube of piratey things, and I thought, what would be cool is if I go through here and take out a few of them and bring them to the next Skulls and Shackles game, we can have our little boat.
Oh,
Right?
that's awesome. And we
Oh,
know where
shit.
the boat is.
Yeah, we know where the boat is, especially in games where it's docked or whatever.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'll
so
be
I got a little pirate ship, and I got another. I grabbed 2 or 3 of them. Most of the box was, in fact, all of the box was commons and uncommons. I didn't see a rare among them. So, they're none of the really cool, intricate ones. But I got 2 of the bigger ones and pull them out.
But hey, pirate ships.
Yeah, exactly. They have pirate flags on the back. I figured that'd be fun. I'll take them along and
Awesome.
have a good
Yeah,
time.
that's awesome.
Yeah. In a few years, those will be perfect for the kids to play with and shoot cannons and move boats around, and I'll have to figure out how to play again. But
Oh yeah, definitely.
there's a couple of rule books and booklets in there, and I can grab the old ones that I have because we had those huge chunks, and the super promo
Oh
ones.
yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah, I still have one of those somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to say that they're in one of these boxes. Yeah, when it's important, I'll find it. And then that was Monday morning, and we went downstairs. We didn't actually end up playing a game with Charlie. We just kind of sat around and thought about eating, and then decided not to. Right?
I think we were just once we determined how much time we were going to have with Charlie, we decided to make our way to the airport first.
Yeah.
So then we could play until he just had to leave.
Yeah. So the 3 of us got a cab. We went over to the airport. We all went to the food court. We were too early to actually check our bags because we had a flight later in the afternoon.
Evening.
Evening. You got some work done. I started getting work done and then was distracted for pretty much most of the day. We had a game of Magic. So I mentioned that we played with stuff out of the swag bags from the concert. We played with the 3 of the 4 packs that we got out of those bags, and it turned out that we got 2 ultra rares and a foil out of the 3 packs. So it was like
pretty good deal.
Awesome. Yeah, that was awesome. Charlie was explaining because he had bought a box and we spent 2 weekends playing, and I think he got 2 of the super rare flip guys, and he was explaining that there's a very small chance that you might get a double-sided card in your pack. As I'm opening my pack and I'm seeing the double-sided, I'm like, yeah, kind of like this. So I got the super cool flipping guy that does cool stuff or whatever. The 3 of us played. You played kind of half-heartedly, but you seem to at least not hate us when we were done.
Oh well, I destroyed you, so that helps.
Right? The deal is when you're playing a game that you like more than other people, you're supposed to let them win so that they want to play again. I could tell you that Charlie and I were not pulling any punches. We just played poorly. Or
I feel like you would know better because that would not work.
No. And so we got slaughtered. Charlie had to leave to catch his flight, and Herman showed up because we were in an airport, everybody's passing through.
Sure.
So Herman sat down and we played again. This time with cards from the fat pack of dragons that I bought. And I want to say you killed Herman, or you attacked Herman. I think I attacked Charlie, and then you finished off me in the first game. And then you said something like, "Oh well, Dan cleaned up somebody, so I'm going to clean up this time." We were kind of in a stalemate. So you attacked Herman, and I attacked you, and then
I was in the weaker position, and you guys were big and beefy.
Yeah.
Like Herman had beefed up, and then you played some big monster, and we're kind of at a stalemate. And I was like, I don't know, but I had one punch. Like I drew one. I was going to hit somebody hard once, and then I was going to die. And so it was like, well, I can hit one of you or hit the other. And it was like, well, I just killed Dan, so I'll kill Herman this time. So.
Yeah. So that ensured my victory, and that was fun. So it made me feel good about buying that box of cards so we can get the lands, and I bought a couple of packs of sleeves so we could play. So that was fun. At that point, I think you went off to work, and a friend of ours sat down, and I got to talk with a different Mike for about an hour or so. He was also waiting for a flight, so we got to talk about Origins and how GenCon was getting bigger, and what Origins was going to do when Origins was getting as big as, starting to outgrow some of its area, and how GenCon has to worry about what's going on with Comic-Con getting, San Diego Comic-Con getting super huge. And it was very interesting industry talk. I chatted with him about a bunch of other stuff. He's got a book coming out that I actually, while we were talking, I bought on my Kindle, immediately, because it's in the Pathfinder universe. So it's in this ACG thing that we're moving around on. So yeah, I don't think it's in this area, but it's someplace, in the same world where something happened and a family is sent off to this area to raise a town, and they've got to hold it for a while in order to keep their holdings elsewhere or something. It sounded like an interesting story, and I like his writing style, so I just bought it on the spot, and it'll be out later next week, I think.
Nice.
That was why he was there. He was talking on a few panels
that makes
about
sense.
that. Yeah, so that was cool. And then who else stopped by? Tanis and Chad, the people who were running the Pathfinder game, came by and said hi on their way to another flight.
As we were setting up a Pathfinder game.
Yeah, as we were setting up a Pathfinder game, which, what does that say about us? We were playing on the way in and playing on the way out and playing all the time.
It's a good game.
So we played a bit more before we had to go to where our flight was. Did we set up again on the other side, or did we just wait to get on the flight? I don't even remember.
No, I think it was too close.
Yeah.
And then we almost, we were down to like the last half dozen people hoping to have that open seat on the way back to Vegas, or maybe, get a gamer to sit between us and join in. And then,
No, a really big guy sat between us, and that was unfortunate, and he slept the whole way. And we weren't able to play, but that's fine. I opened up my laptop and got some actual work done. That's probably some of the work that I put off when I was chatting with Mike and Herman and everyone else at the airport. And then my battery died, and actually, no, I got most of the way through the flight, and then we switched planes in Vegas and got back on, and it was a really short flight from Vegas to San Diego. Not nearly enough time to get a game in, unfortunately. In fact, it was one of those take off, here's a drink. I'm going to take the cup back now because it's time to land.
Exactly.
And we made it back to town, and it's a long week, and we did a lot of gaming, and it was awesome.
Hence the incredibly long episode. But
yes.
GenCon, you knew it was coming. So, but I think we will put off. I have a stack of new games that I tried and some that I bought to review. So I think we'll put that off till next week. That makes sense. Is that the Bad Detectives?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that next time, because we actually got to play that on Friday with Matt and Charlie, and Brian came up.
Oh, good.
Yeah. We played that, and we played Magic, because, that's why I got the box, so we can play Magic. Sure. It was a lot of fun with 4 people.
I don't know. Do you think it's been almost 2 hours? Should we put off an animated series?
It's been over 2 hours. Yeah. Should we? Well, we did promise to talk about it, but you're right. It's been 2 hours. Let's talk about the Infinite Vulcan next time.
It is infinite. It will wait.
Yes. Large Vulcans wait for us.
Yeah. So thanks to everybody who went to GenCon and made it awesome. Thanks to everybody who's listening and still listening or watching. We're just going to wrap it up. I'm Sir Rogue.
And I am still Sir Dan.
And I'll remind you all to expand your pathfinding in the universe with goblins.
Awesome. I will draw to end, and we promise to talk about the animated show next time.